Seahawks in Week 6. Back at practice yesterday after a bye week, Mayfield stood by his comments.
No, I knew I was going to get fined, but it needs to be said. People have to be held accountable for their job. When it affects my job, it sucks because it's not in my control.
So he's quoted right there as saying it needs to be said. D. Wood, do you think he needed to say it?
Hell no. Like, no. Like, this to me, this is the problem with Cleveland right now. Like, you had a bye week and you're going up against the New England Patriots and you're talking about something that happened with the Seattle Seahawks. Like, I don't understand any of that. Your singular focus as a quarterback should be on your opponent, not against something that you really don't have any control over.
But to me, Nick, like you said earlier in the meeting, it starts with coaching. Like, what y'all have to understand, everybody's going to knock Baker and kill Baker for this, Woody. But if Kitchen says in the team meeting, which, Greeny, you have at the beginning of every week, hey, we're not going to comment about anything but the New England Patriots, our coming opponent, Baker would never fix his lips to say that. So, yes, Baker's the one that's out of line in theory, but, like, it starts with coaching.
I think there's perception and reality. In reality, he's right. They need to do their job better, and that impacts his job, and maybe it does need to be said. But when you are a leader of a team, there are different ways to lead, and there's been speculation, is Baker's way of leading an effective way of leading? And I'm not sure that it is in this specific case, because I'm not concerned necessarily about where Baker's focus is, but that team is taking their cues from him. And he needs to say, my focus is on me getting better, the team getting better, so that they hear that and they understand that we're not pointing fingers outside of this, we're pointing fingers inside.
He's been very outspoken and a very truth teller all along. All we have to do is track his career. When Duke Johnson was staying away in a holdout, he called him out in it. Daniel Jones, he spoke out in the GQ piece. Officiating, speaks out, needs to be said. He says what's on his mind, like it or not, agree with it or not. He's always going to say exactly what he's feeling. But to your point, they're 2-4 right now.
It just doesn't seem like he needs to pick right now to say it. And the comparison I made in our meeting this morning, and Shefty, I don't know if you think this is an apt one, is you have two teams that have been losing a lot of games in recent years with fresh starts trying to start things over again, that lose games and are focused on things that have nothing to do with the games. And Baker Mayfield is talking about the officiating from a week and a half ago, and I would put the Jets in that conversation. They just got blown out 33-0 on Monday, and most of the conversation there seems to be about a microphone that was on their quarterback, which I understand they're upset about, but it feels to me like they have much bigger problems right now.
Well, listen, in regards to Baker Mayfield first, he's being asked the question, so I don't know how it's done. It's not like he steps to the podium and says, I want to address the officiating. I'm sure the reporters asked him. So let's put it out there like that. When we're talking about the Jets, that's an entirely different issue. Okay, to me, I didn't think the way that was handled and that was right. I think Sam Darnold was tarred going forward. And so that is an issue, but that's a separate issue than Baker Mayfield calling out the official. We could have a long conversation about the Jets, and I'm sure we will.
No, I do. I get what you're saying. But to me, the thread of commonality, and you guys tell me if I'm missing it, is we're worried about a lot of stuff while we're losing football games.
I see the point you're making. And to kind of disagree with you some, Schefters, whether he was asked the question, we all know that you don't have to answer the question you're asked. They say, what do you think about the officiating last week? I don't know. I said what I said. Right now, we're focusing on getting better. He doesn't have to answer that question. He is going to have to change his leadership style, I think, to be effective in this league.
All right, I got to run to a bunch of other stuff here, but we'll come back and revisit this because I, for one, am fascinated by it. But let's get to what was maybe the most significant NBA matchup of this night last night, which is Sixers and Celtics. And it's Al Horford's first game in his Sixer uniform. He played 3 years in Boston. He rang the bell last night. And then his teammates, Simmons and Embiid, ringing the bell on the floor. Richard Jefferson joining me here. They go one way and then they go the other. And B back to Simmons for the bucket. So those two guys are getting it done in the lane. Ben Simmons, look at him flying through the lane, go up and throwing it down. Simmons had a big night, but once again did not attempt a shot outside of the painted area. Yeah, we're all still waiting.
Yeah, the poor guy. He does all of that, and everyone just wants to see him shoot a three.
Well, the good news here is that his teammates are enormous. This is Kemba Walker at the end of the first half. Look at the defense that's being played around him. Look at the trees he's trying to shoot that through and around. And he doesn't have a whole lot of luck doing it. Kemba would finish with 12 points, shot 4 of 18 from the floor, just 1 of 6 from 3. Fourth quarter now, Sixers are up a dozen. Throwing it up, Tobias Harris to Simmons. Simmons, 24 points, 8 boards, 9 assists. This one does not wind up being close. A big win for Ben Simmons and the Sixers on their opening night.
Does it frustrate you that so much attention is brought to like what you don't do, and not enough brought to what
No, because there's a reason. I mean, I'm skilled, I'm gifted, so I think, I'm pretty good at what I do. Yeah. I mean, there's things I got to get better at. Everybody knows that in the room, so it's shooting. But I'm working, so it is what it is.
All right, so it's 1 out of 82, but somehow the first one feels like we can make it a little bit of a referendum
100%
on these teams. And so to me, there's two interesting storylines. One of them, again, he does not attempt a shot from outside the painted area. That, I think, is what the whole world is waiting to see.
Yeah, and it is. And look, I'll go back to a player like Jason Kidd, who shot 27% from three his rookie year at 21 years old, about the same age that Ben Simmons is. By the end of his career, he was top 5 all-time in career three-pointer makes. It's going to take time. Not only time for him to shoot it, but also just to get the confidence to become a solid shooter. So I am 100% on his side when it's like, look at what he did. He did 24, 8, and 9, and we're still talking about not attempting a three-point shot. Look, he's just one of the great versatile players and young players in our league. So I just think it's a disservice to always talk about what he doesn't do.
Perhaps. Let me go to the other side of it then. The Celtics, they open up on this night against an important, it feels like an important game against a conference opponent. They kind of get blown out, and Kyrie Irving somewhere else scores 50 points. That's not a great way for the season to start for Boston.
It's not, and Kemba Walker is going to play great. He's a great point guard, but one of the things that I think is highlighted is Gordon Hayward. Gordon Hayward had 25. Now, it takes maybe 1, maybe 2 years to come back from the type of injury that he had. So that's very good news. If you're not worried about Kemba Walker because he's an all-NBA guard, but to see Gordon Hayward come out game 1 and look like the old Gordon Hayward, you combine that with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum and Marcus Smart, they're going to be a very well-balanced team.
All right, let me run the floor with you here because there was some other action worth looking at from last night. 32 points from Dame Lillard, 2 and 12 rebounds. How good are the Jazz?
The Jazz are very, very good. They're a great defensive team. We're still looking for Donovan Mitchell to make that next leap to being an all-star. I think this is the year because he's got a great team around him.
And then we have Luka Doncic and a fully healthy Kristaps Porzingis combining for 57 and a Mavericks win over the Wizards. Is Dallas a playoff team this year?
They are not a playoff team. They are going to be one of the most improved teams in the this season. But when you look at their team, it's like, who do you take out of the postseason? Because the Lakers will be in it this year. So the Clippers are going to be in it. There's not too many teams that you can take out of the postseason.
You know who I could take out?
Who else?
Half the East.
Will you stop with that?
This is why I made this point on TV the other day. I did an essay right here.
I asked.
You should just seed them 1 through 16. Dallas might get home court advantage in the first round if they played in the East.
That's fair. I'm not disputing that. But at the end of the day, some of these rivalry matches that we've talked about and we've grown up watching, you, me, everyone has Boston versus Philly versus the Knicks. Well, let's not say Knicks, but the teams that are going to be in the postseason, right? Those are the things that you look forward to. And when you start to add travel to that, it would change the complete dynamic of it. So look, best team that comes out of the West plays the best team that comes out of the East, and I'm fine with it.
So we disagree, and I think if there's one thing we can agree upon, it's that I'm right and you're wrong.
Facts.
Meanwhile, it is time for a moment of versatility, brought to you by Dove. That is Tobias Harris. Signed a huge contract in the offseason, and he's helping others in the process. Ahead of the Sixers opener yesterday, he donated $1 million to 9 different charities, 6 of them in Philadelphia. The donation went to organizations focused on. That is Tobias Harris. Signed a huge contract in the offseason, and he's helping others in the process. Ahead of the Sixers opener yesterday, he donated $1 million to 9 different charities, 6 of them in Philadelphia. The donation went to organizations focused on education in inner city.